రావట్లేదండి. దీంట్లో ఒక దాంట్లో వస్తుంది సార్. వీడియో ఓపెన్ చేస్తే రావట్లేదు. వాళ్ళది ఇట్లా అకౌంట్ మీద క్లిక్ చేసి లైవ్ అని ఉంది. నేను డైరెక్ట్ దీనికి వెళ్ళిపోతాను. See if you can hear also. Hello, is it audible? Is this audible? Yeah, is it audible? Is it fine, right? Close the door and. Hello, everyone. First of all, apologies for the delay in starting of this live session. Unfortunately, we had a lot of technical difficulties. I know it's not, you know, you guys have been patiently waiting for last 35 minutes. Thank you so much for that. To introduce myself, I am Dr. Lahari Surapaneni. I'm a nutritionist and wellness consultant, and I have been in the field of nutrition for over 15 years. Today, as part of this Actify Life's live YouTube session, we are going to talk a little bit about the very basics of wellness and how to take care of ourselves in our busy lifestyle. In addition to that, depending on how much time we have left, I'll certainly try to answer some of the questions that I have been seeing in the last half an hour in the YouTube chat as well. We may not be able to cover all of those, but I'll try my best to answer most of those while we talk about the self-care part of it itself. Okay, we are delighted to have you with us. Let's explore in this live session. I would ideally really like to cover certain important topics of what are the important aspects that we need to pay attention to stay healthy, whether it is just the diet and a little bit of lifestyle related issues like exercise and sleep and stress management and things like that, that can help us lead a healthier, happier, and more balanced life. Okay. Now, in this, we are going to discuss about principles for sustainable health. So, how do we build lasting habits and what are the important steps we can take for that, for well-being? And this is going to include some nutrition, movement related, and sleep related, as well as mindset related strategies that can be easily applied. When we talk about sustainable, what we mean by sustainability is something that you can very easily do as a habit on a daily basis, rather than feeling like you have to go on a very strict diet or you have to stick to a certain workout or a particular kind of exercise or a particular kind of activity for a short duration until you get the result and then you discontinue it. So instead of getting into these shortcuts or trying to go in the shortcut way where the results, whatever, however good they are, the results are always short lived. So what sustainability means in this case or in this context is something that gives you the result in the longer term, and which is also very almost lifelong result, like the positive result that can stay with you for life. So this sustainable health isn't about short-term diets or intense workouts like what I was saying. So what are the different principles that we can do? What are the different ideas that will help us implement these small steps? Okay, let us focus on nutrition, stress management, sleep, and exercise. Not only exercise, but also daily movement beyond exercise. What is the importance of it? Like, we'll also dig little deeper into that. The first one being create a sustainable daily routine. Anything you want to do for life, you have to plan for it first and you have to do time boxing for it. Any kind of routine you want. Like, for example, we all do, at least most of us, as soon as we wake up, we drink some water and we immediately brush our teeth. So, this is something that is part of our daily routine, which has become a habit. So, we really don't have to put in as much thought or effort into it to do the daily brushing. So, any kind of sustainable daily routine that we do, it really becomes as easy as that, as we repetitively do that. Any kind of activity, any kind of thought, something that we do repetitively is going to stick to us, and it will become so natural to us that we don't have to put thought into it after a point of time. So the key here is consistently doing the same thing, whether you are motivated to do it that day or not. So building simple, repeatable routines around meals, as in the kind of food you eat and when you cook, how to store that stuff and how much you eat, how do you manage your plate, hydration, how much water you drink, how frequently you drink, movement. So it's not just exercise, but whether you move throughout the day, rest of the day as well. How is your activity level throughout the day? And do you have fixed meal timings? Do you have fixed sleep timings? Do you have any kind of methods that you have in place to manage the daily stresses? Because, let's be honest, no one leads a stress free life, really. So, the key here is to figure out how to manage that particular stress that is, um, you know, uh, that is more personalized to us. Like most of us, certain things are more stressful to some people. Some people are more stressful about maybe their health. Some people find more stress in their job or professional settings. Some people have more stress in their relationships. So when there are different stressors, do we have this particular system in place to manage that stress? That is what we are going to pay attention to, so that we can create a sustainable daily routine. Small actions performed repetitively, regularly compound. Like these small things that we pay attention to on a daily basis over months and over years are going to provide us the compounded benefit, which we may not realize on a day-to-day basis. But when you turn back and see, in 3 months, in 6 months, you must have made tremendous progress. Coming to nutrition part, following, I just want to make things very easily understandable and very easily applicable before we get into the specifics of. I saw some questions about, like, how do I prevent hair loss? How do I have good energy levels? How do I have, healthier skin? And how do I have good appetite? Or how do I control emotional eating? All these things, right? So I just want to give you a very simple example before we even get into this 80-20 nutrition principle. The simplest example is any kind of building you want to build, the foundation or the building material you want to use is pretty much the same, more or less the same. Another example for this is, let's take an example of English language, right? Whether you want to write a very simple sentence or a very complex essay or, a movie story or anything more complex than that, we really still use the same alphabet. So the basic fundamentals are going to stay the same, the words are going to stay the same, the principles are going to stay the same. However, we use those principles to build upon something much bigger, something much more, bigger in magnitude, and that has more impact. The same way, when it comes to nutrition also, the principles are very, very, very basic, rather than, how a lot of influencers or people who try to, provide these very specific kind of knowledge about nutrition. The way they say it is like, this particular nutrient is going to be miraculous for your health, or this particular nutrient is going to change the way your health is going, or this particular nutrient or particular kind of food is going to be a fat burner. All these things, they become very secondary when we focus on what is the primary uh, you know the root cause, or what is the primary principle that we should base our nutrition on. Here, the fundamental nutrition is 80% of the time, if you eat wholesome food that is nutrient rich, then the other 20% of the time, even if you deviate a little bit from this very healthy, nutritious food, not just in terms of quality but also in terms of quantity. So for 80% of the time, your diet should be not only nutritious from wholesome foods and in right portions and in the right timings and all that. When you take care of the 80%, the 20% will be taken care of or will be handled by your robust body, because this 80% is going to make you so healthy. When you are very healthy, when you are at your optimal health, few deviations from that 80% here and there. The other 20% of the time, say when you are traveling or when you are having to eat outside, when you don't have access to as much of a nutritious food, your body and your health can still take care of itself. So always think about, to put things in perspective, in a 7-day week, right? As long as you're being careful for, say, 7 3 eat 21 meals. So out of the 21 meals, if you can manage about 16 to 17 meals in a very good fashion, be very diligent and all, the other number of meals that are left, even if you have to go out and eat a little, even the other 20%, you still have to be careful about overindulgence, how often you're doing, how much more quantity you're consuming and all. So as long as you take care of this major amount of meals, you can still have some place for luxury foods, or rather than calling junk foods and all that, not so nutritionally balanced meals. Okay, focus on whole food. So how do we ensure, how should this 80% look like? So the focus should be on whole food. So what are whole foods? Most of the times people will be thinking like anything that is processed, like stay away from processed foods. A lot of fear mongering is going on, saying anything processed is bad for you, ditch all the packaged food, or never touch the packaged food. Anything that is bottled, anything that is packaged, all these are unhealthy. There is a lot of information out there going around like this. However, I would like to disagree with part of it. It's a very generic statement saying all packaged foods are bad, because some of the whole foods do come in package. Simple example is, these days we are seeing mm, different kind of pastas, right? Most of the pasta we get from a box or a bag or package. But these days we are also seeing whole wheat pasta, multigrain pasta, millet based pasta. So these are also whole grain based foods, or much closer to the whole foods. So minimal amount of processing is also absolutely fine. What we need to focus on is, how close is this final product that we are consuming to its original form. So the number of steps, when the number of steps is less, we are much closer to getting most of the nutrients for that food. In some cases, processing is in fact going to be a helpful step in making sure that we get all the nutrients from that particular food. So prioritize minimally processed food, nutrient dense food. So we'll learn a little more about nutrient dense foods when we move to how to choose packaged food. Nutrient dense foods in your diet. Some more foods that are wholesome and may or may not need as much of processing are your fruits and vegetables. Especially when it comes to fruits, there really isn't much processing necessary apart from maybe washing the fruit and peeling the fruit or cutting the fruit. That's about it. Beyond that, we really don't need to process the fruit. And with respect to when it comes to vegetables, right? Some of the vegetables we can actually eat raw as part of the salads. There also we need minimal processing, just probably sorting, cleaning, and washing. Pretty much that's it. And one step further, probably cooking it with our favorite spices in the way that we want, but minimizing the added calories. Rather than adding calories, we just try to enhance the nutritional value. That's about it. So sometimes when we cook these vegetables, the nutrition in it is far more available to us. So filling our plate with whole grain based foods, and then a lot of fruits and vegetables, as well as legumes, different kinds of dals, legumes, pulses and all that, different kinds of beans. Simple example for beans is chickpeas and cowpeas, kidney beans, horse gram, whole lentils, all these things can be included and should be included in our daily diet. In addition to that, different kinds of nuts and seeds. Some nuts might need a little bit of extra processing. Simple example is either almonds or cashews. You cannot just pluck this almond or pluck these cashews from the tree and directly use them. There are few steps of processing in there. So these can be considered processed foods. However, the processing step is essential to make them utilizable or usable. So including these nuts and seeds still come under uh, making your food wholesome or including whole foods in your diet. And in addition to that, different kinds of lean meats. In case of people who do include animal based foods in their diet, milk, dairy and dairy products, milk and yogurt and homemade dahi or curd, even Greek yogurt, unflavored Greek yogurt, as well as hung curd can be a part of it. Different kinds of eggs in different forms, whether it is omelette or boiled egg or anything like that, and different kinds of lean meats like chicken, fish, and a little bit of lean cuts of red meats also can all be part of this whole food story. So, as long as we are including food that has some processing steps which enhance the utilization of nutrients rather than reduce the nutritive value, we are pretty on point on including whole foods in our diet. So one of the reasons, or there are many reasons why whole foods should be included in our diet. One being they provide us with essential nutrients, whether it is carbs, proteins, fats, fibers, vitamins and minerals. And another reason is whole foods actually are going to be more gut friendly or more helpful towards keeping our gut healthy. And these are more filling really, so we cannot overeat them. So these also help in weight management as well as keeping all these chronic diseases away from us. So the more whole foods we have in our plate, the better protected we are in the longer term. Now, coming to the packaged foods, earlier I was mentioning about, not all packaged food is bad, right? So, how do we choose these packaged foods? We have to first learn to read the labels. The label information needs to be checked. What I mean by label is, see, when we have a pack of food, it has a front of the pack and back of the pack. Usually, the front of the pack just is more or less advertising. So it has to be appealing to the eye. So that is what the packaging is made for. When you look at the package, there might be, in some cases, it's written no cholesterol or zero cholesterol, or some cases it is written made with oats or made with millets. Anything that will attract you, but once you turn the pack to the back and you will see the ingredient list and also what nutrient is present in it and in what quantity. So most people will just pick up a pack based on the information provided on just front of the pack. What we need to pay attention to is what's available on the back of the pack as well. So once we start learning how to read the food label, the information presented in the back of the pack is what is going to help us make the right choice. What do we need to look for? First of all, the first thing that we need to look for is how many servings are there in that pack. Because sometimes we see like really big chips packs or a pack of biscuits, cookies, candy, and all this, or even pack of chocolate, where it says it's only 50 calories per serving. Just an example. It says only 50 calories per serving. Oh, that doesn't sound very bad. But one single pack that looks very small, it has five servings. So if you don't really pay attention to the serving size, what we can really, we can go wrong with the amount of calories we are ingesting or amount of calories we are eating, thinking that we are only eating 50 calories. If we don't notice what is the serving size, because front of the pack really can list only 50 calories per serving. But then when you turn the pack and see, it is 5 servings per pack. So if you end up eating all 5 servings, you will end up getting 5 times the calories that is mentioned. So make sure you know what is the serving size. That is the first thing. Then you look at the ingredient list. When you look at the ingredient list, you want to have mostly whole foods in the first 5 ingredients, because the ingredient list is always, ingredients on the list are always listed in the order of how much quantity of that particular ingredient is present. For example, if you are choosing a bread, right, and it says whole grain bread, when you see whole grain bread, what you expect to see or what you should expect to see is, on the label in the ingredient list, the first ingredient should be whole grain flour. It can be a millet flour, or if it says whole wheat bread, it has to be 100% whole wheat, should be the first ingredient. And some of the breads do require some sugar for leavening of the bread or for activation of yeast and things like that. So different ingredients have different functions. If you are trying to pay attention to the added sugar and all, look at where the sugar is placed in the ingredient list. If it is within the first few ingredients, that means a lot of sugar is added to it. So unless you're really trying to purchase sugar as a pack, sugar should not be, ideally, in any kind of healthy food, sugar should not be placed in the first 5 ingredients of the list. So that's a very easy way to figure out whether you are picking up something that has added sugar to it. One more thing you can look at in the ingredient label is amount of saturated fat. So the saturated fat is a kind of fat, excess of which can lead to a lot of health conditions, including heart disease. So you want to keep the amount of saturated fat to a minimum. So check out the label and see how much of saturated fat is present. On the other hand, total fat is also important, but you can also see where that fat is coming from. Some of the sources of fats can add more saturated fat. For example, if the food has coconut oil or hydrogenated vegetable oil, partially hydrogenated vegetable oil, these as ingredients, that foods are more likely to have a lot of either saturated fatty acids or trans fats. Both can be, when taken in larger quantities, both can cause some health issues. And also look for another important point that you want to look for is the amount of sodium in that particular food. Although you may or may not have hypertension at this point, it is important to consume this added sodium in limited quantities for our general health, to have our blood pressure under control. Like, even if you don't have high blood pressure right now, consuming low amounts of sodium over a period of time, low as an adequate amount of sodium and not excess. Usually the excess amount of sodium comes from ultra processed foods, this junk food, chips and cookies and biscuits, because whenever we think of sodium, right, for most people, sodium is like, so it comes from salt, but we are adding salt to all foods. What is wrong with sodium? But if you look at some of the packaged foods, sodium is not restricted to foods that are salty. Sodium is also a component of some of the preservatives that are used. So even the food is sweet to taste, there might be excess sodium in it because they had to use a preservative to keep the food stay long, like, extend the shelf life of the food or stay fresh for long and all. So pay attention to the amount of sodium also. So when you want to eat healthy and you have limited choices in terms of whether you can get fresh food or not, or sometimes you are dependent on packaged food only, understanding how to look at the label and what are the things that you need to pay attention to when you are looking at the label, this will be really helpful in choosing the right kind of packaged food. So knowing the serving size is important, understanding how many calories per serving are there, And accordingly, you can plan how much to eat and what are the nutrients that are present in there. Make sure you're not consuming a lot of foods with artificial colors, artificial additives, and all that. So try to keep a shorter ingredient list. There are some exceptions that are, some of the foods are highly processed, but they are also highly nutritious. There are few examples. A simple example can be a whey protein powder. In some cases, where people cannot meet their protein requirements, people will be looking to buy whey protein, or whey protein is a pretty good additive to their diet. However, when you look at whey protein, when you think of how it is manufactured, it is a highly processed food. So just because it is highly processed doesn't mean it is non-nutritious. There are certain nuances that we have to look at to decide whether the food is going to be appropriate for our lifestyle or not. The next one, whether you are eating packaged food, whether you are eating home cooked food, or whether you are eating outside, something that can help us all is mastering portion awareness. This part is probably one of the toughest things that many people struggle with, and this is the reason why people a lot of times have weight related issues also that can eventually translate to different kinds of chronic health conditions. So what do I mean by mastering portion awareness? It is not just about how much of total food you are eating, but also portion of different kinds of components in that food on your plate. So, if you are somebody who is trying to eat less food in general, there are few simple tricks. Using a smaller plate, you can kind of psychologically trick your mind into thinking that you are eating a larger portion, although you're eating a smaller portion, by just using a smaller plate. A very small switch, but over a period of time, you will see how much of a difference it makes. So using a smaller one, smaller plate or a bowl naturally reduces the portion size that you take. Then one more step can be starting to measure the amount of food that you eat on a regular basis. Let's say you've been to a nutritionist and you got a diet prescription and you know that you are supposed to eat, for example, 150 grams of cooked grain product. It can be rice, it can be millet, it can be pasta, it can be semia or anything else. So once you start measuring it and putting it on your plate, doing it repetitively whenever you get an opportunity is going to make you more portion aware. So whenever you're eating outside and you are being served food, whether it is in a restaurant or when you go to a party or function, you are serving food yourself, you can always compare it to the standardized measurement that you are used to eating on a daily basis. That's why if you want to bring portion awareness, I strongly recommend start measuring your food just to bring awareness towards it. Another way to get satiety, some of the complaints that I hear are, but then if I eat very little, I don't feel full at all. So, one of the tricks I tell is sit down, eat without distraction. Sit down and eat rather than trying to eat when you're on the go or when you're on the rush. At least one meal, sit down, bring your attention there, and chew the food well. The process of chewing itself makes you more aware of the portion size and also sends signal for satiety. So the slower you eat, the less you are going to eat. I know this is going to sound very counterproductive, like some people really finish pretty fast, but they tend to be overeaters also. So the moment you slow down and actually enjoy each bite of the food or each morsel of the food, you feel more satious within smaller amount of food than if you just gobble up, or if you're just distracted watching something, reading something, or distracted by work or something else. So try to take time, look at the portion size, measure the portion size whenever possible, choose a smaller plate and eat slowly. When you start doing this repetitively, remember we are talking about how to do things sustainably. So don't think that, oh, this cannot be possible for me in my busy lifestyle. It doesn't have to be possible every single day or every single meal. All you need to do is whenever you get an opportunity, whether it is for one meal in a week or 5 meals in a week or 10 meals in a week, at least try, at least set up. You can say, fine, I have every Saturday at 11 o'clock, I have some time. Or every Saturday's lunch, I do peacefully. I sit down and have my lunch peacefully. So why don't you use that time and set up maybe 5 or 6 Saturdays in a row? Every Saturday's meal, I'm going to measure, I'm going to eat in a smaller plate, smaller bowl, and start paying attention to it. Once you start doing this repetitively, it is going to translate to the other meals, even if you don't do it on a regular basis. So start with one meal a week and gradually extend it to as many meals as you can. This is going to be the most important change apart from the portion size is making sure that you include at least a little bit of protein and at least a little bit of fiber based food in every single one of your meals, whether it is your breakfast, whether it is your lunch, even whether it is your snack. So simple sources of protein, coming from breakfast. I want to talk about breakfast first, right? So if you are somebody who is a vegetarian, try to include different kinds of beans and lentils as part of our breakfast. Most of the times, typical Indian breakfasts do not really contain a lot of protein-based foods. So acknowledge that and pay attention to how your breakfast really is. Add a small bowl of boiled beans and boiled bean salad to the side, which is going to give you a little bit of protein. I'm not saying beans have very high quality or very high quantity of protein, but at least it's a start. For people who eat egg and who eat meat and all, you can start with eggs in your breakfast. That is one way to add protein. And in addition to that, I said we should also add some fiber. So, how do we add fiber? The easiest way to add fiber to any meal is just add some vegetables in whatever form you really like. You don't have to. The moment I say vegetables, most people are like, but I don't want to eat a salad. You don't have to eat a salad to get your vegetables. Vegetables can be eaten in any form that suits your palate, like that is to your preference. They can be steamed, they can be lightly sauteed, they can be made into a curry, they can be baked. Except for deep frying of vegetables, you can pretty much use or take any other form of vegetables. So we are still talking about breakfast. So you can include, earlier I was giving example of boiled beans. So you can make a boiled bean chaat or sauteed vegetables and boiled beans together, a small bowl of it as part of your breakfast. So that can really include both protein and fiber. When it comes to, say, eggs, how do you do your eggs? You can scramble them along with vegetables or steam the vegetables on the side and then have scrambled egg or boiled egg or omelette. So you can choose how you want to do it, but making this one small change. In lunch and dinner, it becomes much easier to include protein, right? If you're a vegetarian, try to include a little bit of dal or low fat paneer or soya paneer or tofu or meal maker or soya chunks. There are different kinds of vegetarian based protein also. And if you're a non vegetarian, you can include some lean cuts of meat, some chicken, skinless chicken, or some fish. These can all be sources of protein in both your lunch and dinner. The tricky part comes usually in snack times. So, how do you include protein in snack time? In some cases, some people can have eggs as a snack, and protein as well as fiber, including a little bit of fat, can be obtained from some of the nuts and seeds. So, really, if you include a fistful of nuts and seeds as one of the snacks in a day, you will be meeting the requirement of having a little bit of protein, little bit of good fats, and also a little bit of fiber. So, if we have the intention, if we know that this is what we have to do, there are several ways to do it. So, really, the point here to be taken is every time you are picking up a food, think how can I add? Does this food already have some protein and fiber in it? If not, can I add some protein and fiber to this particular meal, whether it is a major meal like breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or whether it is a snack also? Why do we need protein? As you can see on the slide, it's for muscle maintenance. Protein preserves your lean muscle. And I know some people who actually, once they get a little older, like over 50, over 60 and all, as they get close to the retirement age, they suddenly stop reducing protein in their diet. The irony is, in fact, we need more protein as we age. One, because we don't want to lose our muscle mass. Two, because our ability to digest and absorb this also goes down. So unless we eat more, we can't absorb more and utilize more. So if you are somebody who is thinking of suddenly reducing the protein intake for thinking that it is going to be healthy for you, please be advised that you really need a little more protein as you age. So make sure you have protein in most of your meals. Plan meals before hunger strikes. This is probably one of the very important parts of weight management, particularly because when we are hungry, not only you, pretty much any of us, when we are hungry, we really do not make good food choices. And there is nobody who is an exception here. So plan about the food, what you want to eat and how much you want to eat, even before you get to the meal point. Ideally, if you are a household, it would be helpful if you can take out an hour a week or at least 30 minutes a week as a family. Sit down and whoever is in charge of the kitchen or whoever decides what everybody eats, whoever takes into consideration, whoever puts in the effort, sit with them and make a plan for the whole week. It has so many advantages. Not only will you start eating healthy, you will be able to apply the previous principle of having a little bit of protein and fiber every meal. So you can actually look everything on paper and see, oh, do I have protein here, do I have fiber here? It becomes very easy to apply. Not only that, you can cut down on the amount of wastage of food. Sometimes you just purchase a large batch of food, and some of these vegetables, some of these fruits, and all these can go to waste because you really did not plan and you just randomly picking whatever is available and cooking, cutting. And then at the end of the week, you open the fridge and you're like, oh, I did not even realize I had this vegetable. So it becomes much easier if you can spend a short amount of time, anywhere between 30 to 60 minutes every week, to actually plan for the whole week so that you can shop accordingly, you can do the prep work accordingly, and most importantly, especially for people who cook here, this is going to be very, very useful in reducing the mental load on you. Honestly, think for it, think for yourself. Don't we all spend a lot of time in a day actually deciding what to cook rather than really cooking? I mean, I personally feel cooking is the easier part. It's deciding what to cook. That is why some people sometimes, when you see, you know, people hesitate to even hire a cook. Most of the times, the reason is because cook might be helpful in the cooking part, but that really doesn't take off the mental load of deciding what to cook for the whole family based on their interests and based on their nutritional requirements and all. So always take some time to plan. It is an investment of about 30 to 60 minutes a week, but trust me, it is a very worthy investment of your time. There is nothing that gives you as much in return as planning your meals for a week. Earlier, I mentioned about this, but I'm going to mention it again. And this time, I want you all to kind of make a promise to yourself that you will eat at least one meal in a week. At least start with one meal in a week where you will eat without any distractions. I want you to really sit down and enjoy every morsel of the food, every bite of the food that you eat. Do not eat distractedly. What I mean by distractedly is, do not have your phone in front of you, do not keep scrolling the reels, or do not watch a video while you do that. Not even this video, really. If you are eating right now, probably not a good time. So try to have at least one meal. You choose which meal you can do, whether it's a breakfast, a lunch, or a dinner on a weekday or a weekend, it doesn't matter, but pick one meal for this week, or maybe we are at the end of the week. So think about what you're going to do next week. Block one meal for yourself, a date with yourself where you are just going to sit and enjoy the meal peacefully. So now this is very helpful in making you appreciate the meal, making you understand how you feel after every bite of it. Being mindful is bringing all your focus onto what you are eating, and automatically you will have satiety with less food than you did before. And when you are paying attention, you will be able to think of, how does my plate look? Is it colorful? Do I have nutritious food? Is this the food that is going to make me healthy, or am I paying with my health while I am eating this food? So every meal comes with that choice. It is either helping you get healthy, or you're paying with your health to eat that meal. So think of this when you eat slowly. The thing is, the digestion of food really starts in the mouth itself. So when you are eating really quickly, you're really not chewing food. You're just gulping it down, swallowing very quickly, and in between drinking some water so you can eat even quicker. The digestion process also is a little incomplete. When you are chewing the food before swallowing, that's when you get the most benefit out of it. So, slowing down and eating mindfully also helps in the process of digestion. And when you are really in the moment and tasting the food, you really are going to feel satisfied with smaller portions. Even if it is a luxury food, even if it is an ice cream, even if it is, I don't know, a plate of biryani, it doesn't matter whatever it is. But please do eat a meal mindfully and you will see the difference. Once you start doing this, routinely set yourself time for at least one meal. Eventually, have a goal of, I will eat at least one meal mindfully in a day. As long as you don't get to that goal, keep doing that same thing. Try to do it once a week, then progress to twice a week, progress to alternate days, and then finally once a day. Okay. Ensure adequate hydration. Most people, when they talk about foods, healthy eating, and all that, we just focus on foods. But then a lot of times we also eat because we are thirsty. We tend to forget about water that is part of the food. A lot of times when we feel hungry or when we feel really like we are craving for something, sometimes it's just our body craving for water more than just the food, because food contains water as well. So don't wait until you feel really thirsty. Yes, your body does send signals. Even I have come across people saying, you're only supposed to drink water when you feel thirsty. Sure, in principle, that is right. However, when was the last time you really paid attention to what are the signals your body is really giving you, right? So, until we get in tune with the signals that our body is sending us, I would suggest at least, have a bottle of water in your line of sight, reach for it, have a sip of it, calm down. Usually, what happens is when you drink water, you take a breath, and it helps us not only hydrate but also take a break in that moment. So try to have a bottle in your reach at all times. Have a personalized bottle. I say this is a gift for yourself. Always stay hydrated, and it's easy to stay hydrated when you always have a bottle of water nearby. It's not just water, but you can always choose other liquids that are not fruit juices or that are not, soft drinks, aerated beverages, and all that. Regular water is okay. Infused water is okay. I'm not saying infused water with all herbs and lemon and all kinds of things is going to magically somehow hydrate you better. But if you find it difficult to drink adequate amount of water as such, there is no harm in drinking infused water also. You can use cucumbers, you can use some mint, you can use tulsi, you can use different kinds of fruits also, like slices of orange, maybe slices of strawberry and all that, to flavor your water a little bit and drink it. But stay away from fruit juices on a regular basis. In summers, you can even have thin buttermilk, and you can have not only liquids, but there are some solids that hydrate you. Some of the solids that hydrate you very easily are salads, fresh vegetables, and also fresh fruit. So eat the fresh fruit, eat the fresh vegetables. That is where you get some of the liquid as well. Now, water is not only necessary, to keep the body function going on, but water is also necessary for good digestion. Most of the times when people think of water, they are like, oh, so if I don't drink enough water, my kidneys will go bad, or if I don't drink enough water, I might get constipation. But water has functions beyond this. Water is necessary for even proper digestion and absorption of nutrients also. So if we want to get whatever our food is providing, if we want to extract all the nutrients out of it, absorb all the nutrients and utilize it for our benefit, water is definitely needed. So make sure you are drinking adequate amount of water. So how do we know if you are drinking adequate amount of water? Monitor the color of urine every time you use the washroom. If it is pale straw color, like pale yellow in color, almost watery in color, that means your water intake is adequate. Say, for example, there are some people who are like, oh, so I'm supposed to drink 3 liters of water a day. Fine. I will drink 1.5 liters of water as soon as I wake up. And then the other 1.5, I'll drink at some point during the day. But that is not going to help very much because we are not camels. We do not have a lot of storage for water. What happens is every time we drink excess water, we are just going to pass it out as urine. And then there is need for water again after a little bit. So it is always advisable to have sips of water periodically rather than drinking a whole lot of water at once and then forgetting about for rest of the day and thinking you have met your water requirements. So keep a water bottle in your line of sight or carry a water bottle no matter where you go and keep sipping every now and then. Strength training is essential for everyone. So now we have moved from food to activity. This is one more aspect that people have a lot of doubts over. But I'm walking. Walking is enough of exercise, right? But I'm running. Running is enough of exercise. I swim. But strength training, whether it is with your own body weight or using some light weights or using machinery, it doesn't matter what your gender is, what your age is. Really, anybody above the age of 18 will really benefit from including strength training as part of their routine on a daily basis. It doesn't have to be heavy weights. The reason we need this is not only to manage or maintain the blood, our muscle levels, but also to keep our bones strong. Most people don't think of or don't associate weight training with strong bones also, especially in case of women, and particularly in case of women who are close to menopause or post menopause. The bones really become brittle or they start losing their strength. If you want to prevent that kind of loss of strength in bones or loss of calcium from bones and all, strength training is the first step that is going to help you, irrespective of how many calcium supplements you take or how calcium rich food you take. If you are not doing strength training, your bones are not going to stay strong. That is one of the most important purposes of strength training. There is another myth associated with strength training, right? Women shouldn't do strength training, or if you're going to lift heavy as a woman, you're going to get some muscles, you suddenly are going to turn very masculine. All of those are myths. In fact, ask anyone who has been struggling, especially ask men who have been struggling in gyms for years together to get the kind of definition they want. It is not easy. Just because you eat a little bit of protein and then you lift light weights, as a woman, you are suddenly not going to turn very muscular. So don't worry about it. Don't fear about it. It is not going to drastically increase your testosterone and make you manly and all. Do strength training if you are a woman, particularly. Please do include strength training in your daily routine. It not only helps with muscle mass and bone mass, it helps keep the hormones in regulation. It helps with glucose regulation. So you have a better glucose regulation and the risk of heart disease is low. Risk of diabetes is low. Strength training also helps along with aerobic training, which is your walking, running, swimming, and all these things. It is also going to regulate the blood pressure. However, if you are somebody who is injury prone, always do it under the supervision of a trained professional. As long as you take care of this, strength training is going to help you have a better life. If you are somebody who cannot afford to work out 6 days a week or strength training of 6 days a week, even 2 sessions of strength training, at least 30 to 45 minutes each, are going to benefit you a lot. So pick what is most suitable for your lifestyle and start from there. You don't have to today run and just go sign up for a gym membership. but start slow. There are many resources available for us these days, even online for free. So start with that, start slow, maybe start with 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, and gradually you will, once it becomes part of your lifestyle, we'll all find time for it. Move throughout the day. So once you start strength training or once you make exercise as part of your lifestyle, the next step is you have to move. We keep telling the kids, or most people, even we were told as kids in our childhood, oh, don't move your hands. Why are you moving your legs? Sit steady. Don't run around. Don't do that. Don't climb that. No, that is what is going to keep us metabolically active and healthy. Movement throughout the day is essential. Even if you spend 2 hours in gym early in the morning or late in the evening, if you are sedentary throughout the day, your risk of chronic diseases is also high. So make sure, along with the 30-45 minutes of exercise on the days you can afford, try to move throughout the day. Moving throughout the day means something as simple as after every 90 minutes, if you are in a sedentary work, no, where you have to sit in front of laptop or you have to sit in front of physically in front of something and you have to do your work, try to get up and walk for 90 seconds to 120 seconds every 90 minutes. So that is what I usually suggest. 90-90 is every 90 minutes, get up and walk around for 90 seconds. If I tell you, please try to get at least 30 minutes of walk in a day, it may not be possible. You're like, who has 30 minutes to walk? But if I tell you, walk for 90 seconds, which is 1.5 minutes every time you get up, that sounds more doable, right? So, this is the small change we are talking about. Every time you get up, drink some water, walk for 90 seconds, come back. And in another 90 minutes, you probably will have to use the washroom and will walk anyway. So try to do this. These are all, you see how these are all so interlinked and connected. You have a water bottle in your line of sight. You take few sips, 1.5 hours later, you have to use washroom. You may have to use washroom. Otherwise, you take another sip of water and in a little bit, you walk for 90 seconds and come back. So this is so seamlessly weaving activity and movement into your lifestyle. And another way movement can be incorporated in the lifestyle is every time you have a meal, whether it is breakfast, lunch, or dinner, try to accommodate an extra 5 to 10 minutes for the meal time. And this is for movement. So every time you have a meal, walk for 5 to 10 minutes. This is going to improve your glucose response. This is going to help prevent pre-diabetes. And if you already have diabetes, this is going to help control your blood glucose and keep your diabetes under control. So something as simple as investing 5 minutes after a meal is going to make a profound difference in how your health progresses. So moving throughout the day, make it a habit rather than thinking I have to walk for 1 hour. Either I walk for 1 hour or I don't walk at all. Don't do the extremes. Pick these small pieces of activity throughout the day so that you are meeting your activity goals even without realizing it. One more thing you can do is really move your legs while you're sitting as well. Even if you're moving at your desk, just keep moving your legs. And this is also going to count as movement. Try not to be very, very sedentary, right? Protect your sleep like a health investment because it is a health investment. Protect your sleep like your life depends on it because there is lots and lots of research showing that our life really does depend on it. Try to get anywhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I know this is going to be very challenging for most of us, but please do aim for at least 7 hours and try to build from there. When I said all these are interlinked, what I mean is, remember initially we were talking about how we can plan our meals for the week. When we plan our meals, when we already know what needs to be made, we really may not have to wake up so early. Sometimes people do wake up early because they have to think of what to cook for that day also. So spending that 30 minutes, investing that 30 minutes in pre-planning also going to help you get that extra sleep that is needed. In fact, research shows that women do need even more sleep than men, but I have barely come across any women who sleep longer than 7.5 to 8 hours. So invest in your sleep, Try to maintain not only about how long you sleep, but it's about quality of sleep as well. So the quality of sleep can be improved by improving your nutrition. When you are eating right, it helps your body, and maintaining the meal timings as well as sleep timings. The sleep hygiene and sleep routine are equally important when it comes to maintaining good health. So trying to sleep and wake up around the same time every day, irrespective of whether it is a weekend or a weekday, it is going to help your body regulate different kinds of hormones in the body and keep your metabolic health very good. Mainly, I know some people who are like, I will be able to sleep for only about 5 to 6 hours during weekdays, but I try to make up for it on weekends. That's not how it works. So you cannot really clear the entire sleep debt only on the weekends. And there is another kind of, another group of people who are like, on weekdays, when I have to go to work next day, I'm going to sleep by 10 o'clock. But if it is a weekend, because I don't have to wake up early, I'm going to stay up until 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock. Problem here is when you are changing these meal timings and sleep timings, we all have a body, clock. So we kind of know when the sun rises, sun sets, we wake up, we sleep, and all that different kinds of cues that we can tell. But do you think we have a calendar inside the body that tells us whether it is a weekend or a weekday? If you are left in a forest, you can tell when it is a morning and when it is a night without a calendar. But can you tell whether it is a Saturday or a Sunday or a Monday or a Tuesday? So we really cannot tell the days. We can only tell the time of the day, pretty close. So try to think about it and see how close you can maintain these times. I'm not telling like a robo, you should sleep at 10 o'clock every night, wake up at 6 o'clock every morning. No, you can still have some leeway for weekends or holidays. But even then, try to keep it as close as possible, maybe within a 1 hour window. Maybe if you are somebody who sleeps at 10 on a regular basis, maybe you can push it to 11 o'clock. Or one odd day, maybe midnight, but do not do beyond that and confuse your body. Manage stress before it manages you. Oh, this is so true, because the moment stress manages us, nothing is in our control. Because we have a lot of people, obviously, who are stress eaters, right? It's not only stress eating. There are some people who do not eat when they are stressed. There are some people who overeat when they are stressed. And it is not just confined to stress. People who shop a lot when they are under stress, people who do not shop at all or don't even buy the essentials when they are stressed. So stress can really change you as a person, with respect to the kind of things that you usually do. You'll stop doing or you'll overdo those things. So before stress manages, we have to figure out what those stressors are and take at least 5 to 10 minutes for ourselves to acknowledge, okay, this is a stressor. How do I manage it? Small daily practices of just maybe taking 2 minutes and doing the deep breathing exercises, or taking about 5 to 10 minutes a day to just think of what happened that day, and journaling, and probably meditating, or even having a hobby of reading something, writing something. All these things, even if you don't spend hours and hours together in a day, doing something just for yourself for maybe 1 to 5 minutes in a day is also going to help you manage the stress a little better. So don't let the stress get you. You be in control of how the stress, affects you before it affects you beyond what you can control. Now, monitor your health markers. Most of the times, what I see is people just measure their weight on a regular basis, because I have clients who come in and tell me, for the past 25 years, I have been the same weight. And this person is about 50 years, 55 years. For past 25 years, 30 years, I have been the same weight. But why is my health changing? My eating habits didn't change. My exercise didn't change. So it is never just the weight that is the marker of health. As we age, different processes in our body change the rate at which things happen. So the metabolic rate reduces, the muscle mass is lost, and then you put on some fat, all these things happen. So it is never, weight is not the only indicator of how healthy you are. It can be one of the indicators, but it is not all of it. So pay attention to other markers as well. Your ability to move, how quickly. Earlier, you used to walk, say, 1 kilometer in about 9 minutes or 10 minutes. Now, is it taking you more than 12 minutes? Is it taking you more than 15 minutes? This is another marker of how healthy you are. Earlier, you were comfortably climbing up 4 flights of stairs. Now, you feel breathless just with one. Or the reverse. Earlier, you were feeling breathless with just 1 flight of stairs. Now you've made some lifestyle changes and suddenly you feel very energetic. You're taking 6 flights of stairs and you feel comfortable. So try different markers, not only the ones you can measure by yourself, but also the lab tests and blood pressure and things like this. Periodically assessing where you are and evaluating your progress or the change over a period of time is going to help us take action before it turns into a major health issue. So start paying attention to these different health markers beyond just weight. There are some, measurement parameters like body fat also, not just BMI, but also percentage body fat. Some of the machines will provide you reasonably good results. So you can look for machines available like that and go on. This is also important. Focus on progress and not perfection. So far, whatever you have heard, there are several pointers, right, as to what to do with diet, eating mindfully, minding the portion of the food, maintaining the times. Don't break yourself trying to do all of it at once every single day. What you need to do is pick up one habit or two habits that feel like you can get into it, pretty quickly, pretty easily from today, from now. Pick only two habits and then start from there. Then really, once you start doing it, you will make a lot of progress over a period of time. Be patient with it. This part is very, very important. Patience is necessary for consistency. You're not doing anything drastic. You're not looking for a deadline like, I want to do it today. I want to do it right away. I want to see results in 1 month, 10 days, 3 months. No, you're not doing it for one result per se. You're doing it because it's the right thing to do, and you will see the results slowly but steadily, and these results are going to be very long term. So focus more on what are you doing, are you being very consistent or not, rather than whether you are being perfect every single time. So embrace the journey, and sustainable health isn't about being perfect. Don't try to be perfect every single meal, every single exercise routine, every single day. You're going to be fine as long as you apply at least some of those. Okay. Now, let me see if I can answer some of the questions. Okay. All right. I'm just going to food to eat for better sleep, right? Including protein rich foods in your dinner, and especially maybe, just give me 1 second, please. Sorry. All right. So, including protein-rich food in your dinner is definitely going to be very helpful. Simple examples are, maybe if you are a non-vegetarian, you can add an egg, or dairy-based foods. You can eat some yogurt, add some curd in your dinner. And for some people, not having carbohydrates in your diet also is going to cause issues. So make sure you have a little bit of carbohydrate also in your diet. So I'm so sorry for this. Okay. One more question. How to ease constipation after protein diet? I just talked about protein diet, right? So, how do you ease constipation? If you are eating protein, make sure you also have some fiber along with it. So, once you have some fiber, your constipation will be eased. It's not just about fiber, but whenever you're taking fiber and you don't want to have constipation, you must include water in your diet. Like hydration has to be maintained so that you don't have any issues with constipation. Initially, somebody who has constipation, it also happens if you suddenly increase the amount of fiber you are having in your diet. So make sure you don't increase the amount of fiber. Like, we keep hearing or coming across information saying include fiber if you don't want to have constipation, or include some sort of fiber supplements. Whenever you do any of those things, make sure you're increasing your water intake to match the fiber intake. Otherwise, constipation is only going to get worse than getting better. What about having rolls and samosa as a breakfast? In principle, I would not recommend having any fried food in breakfast. Definitely, you're not going to get any nutrition from that, right? But if you want to have a baked samosa, which is full with protein filling, it can be your carbs, it can be your protein, and add some vegetables on the side, whether it is a salad or whether it is steamed vegetables, or you can even make vegetable chutney without tadka and everything, and you can include that as your breakfast. If you are making a baked roll or baked samosa, sure, you can. Do we soak? I see a lot of questions about calorie deficit and weight management. Those are very personalized. Like, I can very easily say, oh, for calorie deficit, you need to figure out how many calories you need and eat less than that. But it is a lot more nuanced and personalized. It is like, asking, I have a headache, what medicine can I use? But before you prescribe any medicine, or for that matter, any doctor to prescribe a medicine for your headache, they need to understand why you have a headache, what is the reason, and what can help you with the headache. So it's like, why are you even overweight? What caused the weight? And how can what is your particular living situation? What is it that you can do? So it's a very personalized answer which cannot be given without additional information. um, do we soak all the nuts before we eat? I want to clarify this. Soaking helps in dissolving some of the anti-nutrients in the nuts, and helps with absorption of the nutrients, as well as because the nuts are hydrated, they are much easier to chew and swallow, so it becomes much easier to consume, but it is not mandatory. So if you are using an excuse of, I forgot to soak the nuts, so I'm not eating nuts today, I would suggest please eat the nuts dry instead of thinking of soaking them if it is easier. So it is more important to include nuts in your diet rather than soaking the nuts and eating. So if you can soak, even better. If you don't remember to soak for that day, just eat the nuts and then soak it for the next day. Okay. You eat healthy foods but never count calories. Well, calorie counting is not always mandatory as long as you are healthy, you feel healthy, you are active, and your health parameters are okay. It is not absolutely necessary to count your calories for everybody. Is non-veg and dairy products unhealthy? Well, not unless you are consuming them excessively, not unless you are deep frying everything and eating high in saturated fat dairy products, or saturated fat rich cuts of meat. Non-veg and dairy products can be a part of a healthy diet. It's not like one particular food is completely healthy, one particular food is completely unhealthy. Any food, when taken in quantities either less than or more than what is required for your body, can become unhealthy. So there is no clear answer saying, oh, this kind of food is unhealthy for you. Well, junk food definitely is not going to be healthy ever, but we can make it part of our healthy food, provided we are eating them less regularly and in less portion, and be aware that it is not contributing to our health. I have a B12 deficiency. What food should I eat? So the thing with B12 is only available through food for us in animal-based food. So all kinds of dairy products, especially milk and cheese, and also our curds, different kind of curd, yogurt, buttermilk, dairy products, and also animal-based foods, as in eggs also have B12, chicken has, fish has, and to an extent, different kinds of meats have. So whenever you have deficiency, particularly whether it is of B12, whether it is of iron or any of these other nutrients, it depends on how much deficient you are. When the deficiency is very high, as in your numbers are very low, it takes a long time to fill it in with just food, because no food is really very high in these vitamins and minerals. Foods have a balance of vitamins and minerals, never too high. So, for you to get your daily requirement, and in addition to that, to make you clear the deficiency, you have to eat a lot of food. And eating that much amount of food is going to cause other problems. So, whenever you have severe deficiencies, it is always advisable to talk to a healthcare professional and get supplements that are necessary to get you to a normal level. Once you get to your normal level, it becomes easy to maintain with diet alone. And somebody asked about vitamin D. There are some foods these days that are fortified. Vitamin D, unfortunately, is not naturally available in foods in large quantities that are required for us. However, exposure to sun is one way where our body itself makes vitamin D. But there are um, a lot of hurdles for that, especially like the amount of skin that is exposed, the skin tone that we have, and the time of sunlight exposure. Like if you are going out in sun from 6 o'clock to 7 a.m. or 5 to 6 p.m. in the evening, we really are not going to make a lot of cholesterol inside the body. So it is important to have proper sun exposure, usually between 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. But then in summers like this, and Indian summers, we are going out from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and spending 10 minutes. Forget about vitamin D, we might get sunstroke. So always get your tests done upon advice of a medical professional. You might have to take supplements with vitamin D. So somebody is asking, their kid is 1.5 years old. Can I give white part of egg daily to him? Why only white part? Please give a whole egg. Absolutely fine. Any kid over 1 year old can have one full egg every day. Eggs are healthy as long as you know the source and the source is healthy. Fully cooked egg. It can be boiled egg, it can be scrambled, it can be an omelette, whichever form your child accepts, please do give. Uh, Okay, I only eat wheat flour bread and not rice at any meal. Is it good? So, wheat is a grain, rice is a grain, millets are grains, barley is a grain, quinoa is a grain. So, if you are eating one of these grains, it is absolutely fine, but I always recommend a variety of grains in your diet on a regular basis. Let's say for one meal you are eating wheat based product. For another meal you can use rice based. Another meal you can use quinoa or barley or millets or whatever is like jowar roti or bajra or corn or any of those things, so that when you are getting these grains from different sources or foods from different sources, you are also going to get different kinds of vitamins and minerals. All the grains provide similar amounts of carbohydrates for us, but it is also there is a difference in the kind of vitamins and minerals they provide, especially in terms of quantity. So I would usually recommend use at least 2 grains in a day. Apart from just wheat, you can include any other grain also. It can be a millet, it can be rice also. So some people are asking about supplements. So regarding supplements, right? Again, the one should not give a generic advice about supplements. Supplements should not be used just like that, or nobody should just go randomly start taking supplements or multivitamins and all that. It's not just about overdosage, it's also about whether you need it or not. Sometimes when you don't need the supplements, there is no point in taking it. You will just be making more expensive urine because your body is going to expel anything extra, so it won't be of any use. When you want to use supplements, you have to have a good reason to use supplements. Either you are deficient and a doctor prescribed it, or you have a health condition, or you are under particular medication where your doctor says, as long as you are using this medication, use these supplements. Never take self-prescribed medications or supplements. Okay. Do we have to eat only water as liquids or any liquids like juices, mint water, barley water? I think I addressed it during the talk also. Try to drink your water as water, but infused water is okay. Like you can add mint to it, you can add lemon to it, you can add tulsi to it, and all that. But try to keep it to water mostly, and maybe thin buttermilk, occasionally coconut water. Don't get into the zone of fruit juices and all. Barley water is to an extent okay, but try to keep it just plain water or infused water. Fruit juices, barley water, sugarcane juice, and with all these things, you are also going to add a lot of extra calories that you may or may not like. You may or may not want to get those extra calories. Glucose management diet. So, as I said, one simple tip, you want to diabetes diet, glucose management diet. There are three things that I covered in this that are going to be extremely helpful to control blood glucose. One, try to include fiber in every meal. Definitely. In fact, if possible, start your meal with fiber. And two, try to include some source of protein in your every meal. And number three, walk for at least 5 to 10 minutes after every meal. These three things are going to definitely help you get your blood glucose to a better point. I'm not telling you're going to be cured out of diabetes immediately by next month, but if you compare today and start doing these three things and measure your blood glucose after 3 months, you certainly will see a difference and your blood glucose levels will become better. Okay, I just want to answer one more question. A child is 2.5 years old and still breastfeeding. They are poor feeders, so they are worried. The mother is worried. So at 2.5, you might want to gradually wean the child off. You don't have to forcefully do that. You can just reduce the frequency instead of trying to feed them during the day and all. Maybe restrict feeding to either as soon as they wake up or right at bedtime. A lot of times, babies continue to breastfeed not for the nutrition part of it, but just for the attachment and for the security and the closeness. So there is nothing wrong with it, but you may want to try to gradually wean the child off. And when kids are being picky, a lot of times you have to look at your own eating habits and the family's eating habits. Some quick tips to make sure the child doesn't continue to be a picky eater is, even when they say no, do not force feed them. Keep offering them food. If they say no, for then drop that food, give something that they are accustomed to eating, but reintroduce that food periodically, maybe every 2 days, every 3 days. No kid, or even for that matter, no adult immediately takes liking to any strange food presented to them in the first go or a second go. The more number of times you are exposed to something, the more likely you are to pick up that food and eat. So keep keep your kid exposed to different kinds of foods and multiple times, and also make sure you are eating along with the kid or at least some family member. Never keep the children's meal time very separate from family's meal time, so make it as normal as possible. Get the child to sit along with the family. Here is where mindful eating comes into picture as well. So instead of distracted eating and having phones, having TV and everything, instead just one meal a day, sit down and eat as a family. Gradually the child's eating habits will improve, and when you are all eating together, before correcting a child, as adults we should correct our own eating habits and make sure that we are eating healthy first. We cannot be like, oh, I don't want this vegetable, I don't want to eat this fruit. The moment you start, you or any other family member starts making these comments about foods, the kids will easily pick up on those habits. So make sure the entire household is eating healthy first and they are not the picky eaters, and then gradually your child will be better. All right. uh, okay, this is a very important question and I like to answer it. If you have two choices when you are hungry, either eat junk food or eat nothing to stay hungry for more hours, which one to choose? Very good. So ideally, I would start with planning, because why are you putting yourself in a situation where you have to go hungry for hours together? When you know you're going somewhere and you don't know whether you're going to get the right kind of food there or not, I personally would like to carry a fruit or a box of nuts with me at all times. So it becomes easy. You are not really putting yourself in a position where you really have to make that choice. Right? That is point one. If you can carry something as simple as a banana or an apple, it doesn't have to be, you have to prepare a full meal and take it and all. No. And we talked about soaked nuts also. We don't have to soak the nuts. You really can pick up maybe a small box full of roasted peanuts, roasted cashews, or just plain cashews, almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, any of these things that do not perish, or like they will stay fresh for a couple of days. So always keep this box in your handbag at all times, so it becomes easy. And then, if now coming to the choice part, right? No food is unhealthy as long as it at least provides you some nutrients. So if it is junk food, even if it is deep fried food, you can have a small portion of it. Just because you bought a burger doesn't mean you have to eat the full burger with all the unhealthy mayo, sauces, ketchups, and all that. You can ask them to make a burger without the ketchup, without the mayo and all. And you have to realize you're not eating that for taste. At that point, you are eating just because you need to eat. You don't want to stay hungry. So you can always choose the better of whatever is available and eat a smaller portion that can sustain you until you get to a point where you can have your healthy meal. So I would choose that. Fasting, and is there any healthy way to do fasting? Fasting, there are different, I come across different definitions of fasting. I know people who fast or who tell me that they are fasting and they are eating this very carb rich, like sabudana and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and all that, without any other fiber source, without any other protein source and all that. So it's really, it depends on what you call fasting. But in my what I think of fasting is basically you are giving a break to your digestive system, a prolonged break. Anything beyond 6 hours is going to be considered fasting for a prolonged period. So I would say, and for that, with that definition, all of us are fasting every day, right? While we are sleeping, hopefully we are all sleeping for 8 hours. So we get a minimum of 8 hours of fasting every day. And hopefully you're all trying to eat at least a couple of hours before bedtime. So you can start with 2 hours before bedtime and 2 hours after you wake up. So you're extending that 8 hours by another 2 hours here, 2 hours there, and we have 12 hours of fasting. That is the basic bare minimum we can all start with. Anything beyond that depends on, is there a necessity for that? Because 16 hours of fasting, 18 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, there are different levels of fasting and all that. So it needs to be done under supervision and based on whether it is even necessary, what is the purpose of it and all that. When you are fasting, automatically the amount of food you take goes down. And amount of food doesn't mean just the calories, it also means vitamins, minerals also. So we have to think from that angle also to see it. Fasting cannot be a generic advice. In fact, I know this sounds silly, but nutrition advice cannot be a generic advice. This is like, one thing that fits somebody will not fit everybody. So there are some general principles, but you cannot customize on a general forum. You cannot give the same advice like eat nuts to everybody or drink 3 liters of water to everybody. It doesn't work. What if there is somebody with a kidney disease here? If I tell them like, oh, you must drink, everybody must drink 3 liters of water, they probably, their doctor has put them on a ration of 1.5 liter of fluids a day, not even water, like the entire fluid content, not more than 1.5 liters. So the nutrition advice also should be given very carefully. It cannot be generalized in all circumstances. We can only generalize it to, okay, fruits are generally healthy for everybody. A certain quantity is generally healthy for everybody. That kind of advice is okay. Okay. And I'm also seeing a lot about belly fat and abdominal fat. There are no specific foods or specific exercises that are going to help you lose fat just around the tummy. But when somebody is losing fat, they are losing fat from different parts of the body. It can be from belly, it can be from visceral fat, it can be from subcutaneous fat. I remember seeing one of the questions about visceral fat and subcutaneous fat also. But one of the things is visceral fat is a lot more responsive or a lot quicker to respond to any of your lifestyle changes. So if your belly fat is more of visceral fat, once you start making the lifestyle changes we have discussed so far, whether it is about eating healthy diet, 80-20, or minding the portion sizes, being active, being doing an exercise every day, also sleeping well, and managing stress. If you take care of all these things, it will happen on its own slowly and gradually. Most important part is consistency matters. Nothing will happen overnight. See, nobody will suddenly gain like 4 inches of abdominal fat in 1 month. I don't understand when somebody is like, I want to lose 4 or 5 inches of my abdominal fat in 1 month. You haven't gained it in 1 month. You must have taken 5 years or 6 years. Give this at least 5 to 6 months. Look at the scale of results that you're asking for. Setting goals that are achievable is definitely very, very important. So do not set drastic goals like that, whether it is about losing 5 kgs in a month, 10 kgs in 2 months. Don't do this. Don't set goal of weight, rather I say set action goals, as in set goals of what you want to do. You can set goal of, I want to eat at least 2 different kinds of fruits every day, I want to eat 500 grams of vegetables every day. These are the goals you should be focusing on, rather than I want to lose 5 kgs by end of this month. If you do these, the 5 kgs will happen on its own at the time it is supposed to happen, because you cannot like chop off a part of your body and lose 5 kgs, right? So don't set the goals that you have very little control over. What you have control over is what you eat, how much you eat, and also how much you can work out, how much you move, how much you sleep. These are the things you should set goals about. I'm going to sleep at 10 p.m. every day for 6 days in this week. That is a goal you want to set, and try to extend it to 10 days and try to extend it to 30 days. So always think of how can I pick the smallest healthy habit and then keep repeating it until it becomes very natural to me, where I don't have to think twice about doing this. That is the that is the only thing that you have to do, really. I know the advice is very, very boring, but boring is the only way you will get result. There are no exciting overnight ways to get results, whether it is to get healthy or gain weight or lose weight. Or if you ask people who are trying to gain weight, they will tell you gaining weight is also as difficult. And people who are really trying to lose weight, they'll tell you, no, I gain weight overnight. No, that weight is mostly water weight, depending on what you have eaten the day before. So don't place your health or even your worth on something that changes, something that changes overnight. Or sometimes, I don't know how many times some of you check your weights. If you try to check your weight, say 5 times in a day, you probably are going to see 3 different numbers. So don't place your health's worth or your own worth on something that is so fickle, so dynamic that it changes 5 to 10 times in a day. Only time I say, when you are measuring your weight, there are two simple rules. Either you note down or you document the date, time, and your weight every single time you measure, and also write down what you have done the day before. This is the difficult way. Or you only measure it once in a month, really, like 1st of every month or 15th of every month, and note it down. If you're really trying to change something, you will see it takes at least 4 to 6 weeks to reflect the progress you have made with all the changes. Being consistent is the only thing that gives any sort of long lasting result. Do it because that is going to help your health. Don't do it because just because you want to lose weight. Losing weight is going to be one of the positive outcomes. So don't focus on losing weight part. Focus on, am I doing this right? Am I doing all the right things? I think for now we are almost close to the 1.5 hour. Once again, I apologize for starting this late because we had some technical difficulties, and we look forward to doing more informational sessions like this. Please do continue to send your questions, and we'll be able to conduct more sessions like this to answer those questions. Okay. Thank you very much. You all have a good day, good weekend. Stay healthy, stay happy. Thank you. Bye bye.